Welcome to the 8th video in our series, Understanding Inflation and Escalation in Defense Acquisition, Best Practices for Cost Analysis. Today, we will be reviewing affordability analysis. Let's get started. An affordability analysis is critical to knowing whether funding needs of a program fit under a future budget. Suppose you're executing two programs, Program A and Program B, and you want to assess the affordability of a new program, C. Let's further suppose that we have time-phased cost estimates for each program, which incorporates different escalation rates for the different commodity types. In an affordability analysis, the program funding requirements must fit under a budget constraint. We generally assume that the Department of Defense's top-line budget will grow at the rate of inflation. In this case, the portfolio of the two programs, A and B, fit within this top-line budget. But what happens when we introduce the new program, Program C? We can see that at a particular point, the program requirements for A, B, and C surpass the forecasted budget. The portfolio of programs is no longer affordable, and trade-offs will have to be made. Affordability analyses, such as the one shown here, are properly done in then-year dollars, which represent the amount of dollars needed to meet the program requirements in each year. Affordability analyses can also be performed in inflation-adjusted dollars. By deflating the realistic then-year cost estimates for Program A and Program B using an inflation index, then we can return what are called constant year dollars. The top-line budget, also deflated into constant year dollars, is now flat. This is because we assume that the top-line budget will grow at the rate of inflation. And if we add Program C to the portfolio in constant year dollars, then we will reach the same conclusion as we did using then-year dollars. The portfolio of programs is unaffordable at this point in the future. The analysis provides a consistent conclusion because the then-year dollars were all deflated using the exact same inflation index to return constant year dollars. Analysts should always assess escalation when creating then-year cost estimates. However, when necessary to present cost estimates for decision-making, the conversion from then-year should be made using an inflation index. Suppose we perform the affordability analysis again, but we converted the results from then-year using an escalation index, resulting in a constant price view. Both Program A and B are de-escalated, using their unique escalation rates. Program A, for example, may be de-escalated by 5% per year, while Program B is de-escalated by about 3% per year. Because we assumed the top-line budget would grow at the rate of inflation, say 2% per year, then escalation in this case matches inflation. The top-line budget in constant price is adjusted by inflation. When we add Program C to the portfolio in constant prices, removing an assumed escalation rate of, say, 7% per year, we now reach the wrong conclusion. The portfolio of programs appears affordable under the top-line budget when it is not in reality. Because each program was de-escalated with its own unique index, one that reflects faster price growth, the portfolio appears to fit with the projected top-line budget. Constant prices can return distorted relationships. While the program portfolio appears affordable, it is in fact not. In summary, an affordability analysis assesses the cost impact of adding or changing program budget elements to existing ones. Where elements have different escalation rates, constant prices return distorted relationships. It is recommended to present costs for decision support, such as in an affordability analysis, in either then-year dollars, constant year dollars, or both. In the Excel portion of this video, we will go over how to convert then-year dollar cost estimates into constant year figures that can be used for presentations in an affordability analysis. Using the same figures as we did in the PowerPoint example, suppose we are given a top-line budget from 2018 to 2027, which is $100 million in the first year and then grows at an assumed rate of inflation. Suppose this is represented by the inflation rate found in our index table on the left. We will assume that the inflation rate grows at 2%, and so does the top-line budget. Programs A, B, and C each have their own unique funding requirements to execute the program. The cost estimates may have been a detailed buildup of several elements depending on the requirements involved. For Program A, the then-year cost figures have an assumed escalation rate of 5% per annum between 2018 and 2027. Similarly, Program B has an assumed escalation rate of 3%. And for Program C, this cost figure has an assumed escalation rate of 7%. These then-year cost figures are shown in purple and displayed in the chart below, giving us realistic cost estimates, which is the amount of dollars necessary to be authorized for the programs to meet their requirements. The top-line budget is assumed to grow again at inflation, and we see that in the year 2024, the program requirements start surpassing the top-line budget. The portfolio of programs after 2024 is no longer affordable, and trade-offs will have to be made. First, let's present the estimates in the affordability analysis in constant year dollars. Constant year dollars will take each of the cost elements and divide it by the proper year's inflation index value, shown on the left. So the 2018 then-year dollars will be divided by the 2018 inflation index value. We can pull this formula down for each year to return the top-line budget in constant year dollars. Since the top-line budget, Program A, Program B, and Program C will all be normalized using the same inflation index, we can lock the reference horizontally by pushing the F4 button 3 times. We can copy and paste as formulas for each of the 3 programs. Now we see in our chart below, using constant year 2018 figures, that we've reached the same conclusion. In 2024, the portfolio of programs requires more dollars than we are assumed to have in the top-line budget. The portfolio of programs is not affordable after 2024, which is the same conclusion we have reached in the then-year dollars. This is because we simply took the then-year dollars, which are the actual dollar requirements that will be needed at specific points in time, and we deflated them all using the same common inflation index. So the relative relationships between each of the program cost estimates and the time phase top-line budget is maintained. Suppose now that we were to de-escalate the then-year dollars in our affordability analysis and present to decision makers a constant price view of the analysis. If we take each of the then-year dollars and normalize them using the index which will best represent their price growth, we will derive the constant price 2018 dollars. In this case, we assume the top-line budget would grow at the inflation rate, and so in constant prices, we would take the top-line budget divided by the inflation index. In this case, the constant year dollars and constant price dollars happen to be the same because, again, the top-line budget is assumed to grow at inflation. However, for Program A, you would take the then-year dollar requirements and divide by Program A's escalation index, which we assume would grow at 5%. We can fill that formula down and return the constant price dollars for each year of Program A. Notice that in the year 2027, the 2027 then-year dollar for Program A will be normalized using the 2027 index value for Program A's escalation index. We can copy and paste these formulas over for Programs B and C such that each of Program B and C has their then-year dollars normalized by their unique escalation indexes. As you can see in the chart below, the conclusion that we reach using the then-year and constant year views of the affordability analysis no longer holds. The program requirements for A, B, and C appear to be well within the top-line budget constraint, meaning that the portfolio of programs is affordable when we know that it is in fact not affordable. The top-line budget is being de-escalated using a 2% rate, while each of the programs has been de-escalated using higher rates, 5%, 3%, and 7% respectively. Removing faster growth rates from programs relative to the budget constraint removes more of their price growth, making them appear affordable when they are not. Using different escalation rates to de-escalate programs can provide distorted relationships of the actual funding requirements that are needed. So while escalation should be assessed when developing the realistic then-year cost estimate to begin with, when we are presenting those cost figures for decision support, we must maintain the relationship between the different elements of cost, such that we reach the same conclusions and don't distort those relationships by removing different rates of price growth for each cost element. This recommendation presenting cost and inflation-adjusted constant near dollars also applies to other areas of decision support, such as when baselining a program from which cost growth is calculated and when performing an analysis of alternatives which is used to align program resources and requirements. Thank you for watching. This concludes Video 8 in our series, Understanding Inflation and Escalation in Defense Acquisition, Best Practices for Cost Analysis. For more information or additional resources on how inflation and escalation are used in defense acquisition, please visit our website at cade.osd.mil/policy/inflation.